Hello and welcome to an extremely special episode of Michael and Mom Talk Cancer. I am your official host, Michael Reed Kramer, and
I am the other official host, Ashley, aka Mom Kramer. And oh my goodness, we're so blessed to have this if you're watching on YouTube, she's gorgeous. Okay, if you're not watching on YouTube, just you should. Because we are with the beautiful Amy Hart. Thank you so much for being here, Amy.
Thank you for having me. I swear you are my spirit animal. I saw it across the room on the last night at CancerCon when we were dancing. I said, yeah, we're spirit sisters from another lifetime. I knew it. You're just.
What about my dancing skills? I thought they were pretty good too.
It's nothing to do with the skills. It's to do with the free spirit. And I know that Amy and I have that same free spirit, like on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Fun.
Definitely.
Yes.
And that was not a slight towards your dance skills, not whatsoever. Everybody there was cutting a rug.
Oh my God, they were like amazing dancers. Like, can we talk about CancerCon? Like the dancer, the people on the dance floor? Yes, including you, Michael, of course. Professional dancer, ex-professional dancer.
I saw everybody out there, even people who normally are not on the dance floor. We're on the dance floor at CancerCon, so
it was amazing. Well, so yeah, that's where the story starts. We met you at CancerCon, which was in August in Austin, Texas. But you are really like bestie friends with someone. If everyone listening to this podcast heard our podcast with JJ Singleton.
Yes, one of my awesome besties, one of the great people I've met in this space of online cancer support, which, you know, it's such an important part of getting towards acceptance, is hearing that you are not the only one dealing with these feelings. And some of my initial contacts mean the most to me, and JJ is definitely at the top of that list. He's such an awesome friend.
He is an amazing human.
How did you guys meet?
You met online,
on
right?
Instagram. Because we both have Lynch Syndrome, and I think that's everyone who is diagnosed with cancer young, we're already kind of a niche group, right? And then from there we niche down into these little subgroups of the types of cancers or maybe our genetic conditions. And JJ and I met through the colon cancer community online, specifically with Lynch syndrome. Both of us have a predisposition to colorectal cancer and several other cancers through a genetic condition called Lynch syndrome. So shout out genetic screening, shout out knowing your family history, shout out listening to your body. But met him and so many amazing people through this community. And actually, that's what led me to CancerCon was I was part of hosting a booth for the the Colon Cancer Coalition. And they are a great group that I've worked with and been really grateful to travel to Austin, meet all of you, and so many other people in the different cancer genres, but also all dealing with it in a under 40 age group.
Because I think most people listening to this know, but CancerCon is for AYAs, adolescents and young adults with cancer, which goes from age, I think 16 to 39.
Yeah.
But okay, we want to do at least I do. I want to do a rewind because we want everyone to hear your story. Can you tell us
how you found out you had cancer?
Yes,
how old were you?
Because you are a baby, you're healthy, you have all of the things, check all of the boxes for why the heck should you have cancer?
Yeah, and exactly why it's probably a lot of the doctors that I was going to with the things I was feeling were pointing me in false directions or the wrong, maybe not the wrong direction because they were addressing mental health and stuff, but had I known, had I had more information, I feel like I could have been a better advocate. But I basically just started to feel off when I was about 33 years old. I just didn't feel well. I have two young children. I'm a mom. At the time I owned a business, so I was running all over, doing all of the things, and I thought I was just tired and maybe needed some mental, help, or I didn't know what. So I went into my primary care doctor. I got like basic blood work, which came back, you're good, no problems. None of my blood work showed anything, in a basic panel. None of it showed something concerning. I did end up seeking out some counseling to try to get through as anxiety. I had my mother pass of uterine cancer at age 50. My grandmother passed of colorectal cancer, recurrent colorectal cancer, at age 65. And so I was expressing to these doctors my family history, and I was being met with the idea that maybe I had medical trauma anxiety related to this thing that had happened in my family, these were unfortunate things, but not necessarily you. You're young, not a smoker, not overweight, active, healthy, otherwise. But then my symptoms just never stopped. They got worse, more acute, to the point where I was having a lot of bloating, change in all of my bathroom habits. I went from I was like a one time in the bathroom kind of person to I could not be away from the bathroom. It was just really tough. And then the final straw for me was I started to have blood when I was going to the bathroom. I had blood in my stool, and I knew that was a red flag. I could hear alarm bells going off in my head. I could, my mom's like my guiding light. I felt like she was shaking my shoulders and saying, wake up, you need to go get help for this. So finally got into a GI doctor through my OBGYN, which I've met a lot of young women who have been diagnosed because of their wonderful OBGYNs who actually listen to them. So shout out OBGYNs. But got me into a GI doctor's office who, again, did not want to give me a colonoscopy because I'm young.
You were 33.
I'm having pencil-like stool with blood. That's there should be no question.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you have anything like that, it doesn't necessarily mean you have cancer, but it means you need a colonoscopy immediately. My little claim to fame in telling my story is I literally gripped my chair and said, call security or put me on the schedule for a colonoscopy. And
I love you.
They're like, ma'am, the nurse and the doctor that were in there were like, it's not that serious. We'll give you what you're asking for. Ended up having a colonoscopy about a month after that, and I was diagnosed at that colonoscopy by the same man who told me going under, see on the other side for, the good news that you're fine. So to his credit, he had to come out and deliver the news, but it was really challenging I remember sitting straight up and being like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I just watched my mom die. I'm going to die. My babies, Delilah, my youngest, was 18 months old at that time. So.
Oh my God.
I was asked a different question, not the baby question, but
no.
How did you get a different doctor, or did you go to do treatment with that doctor?
No, such a great question, and I've talked to a few people about this who had challenging situations where either you were ignored by your PCP and you end up dropping them or whatever. I basically was like, I'm done with these people. I have gotten what I needed to know. I never actually went or talked to anything from my PCP, but I did have all the way through treatment as like a, hey, by the way, I had them send all of my records to the primary care who told me that's a little bit of shade if you're in the cancer world, if you keep sending your records back to them. But it's all good. I hopefully it educated them, and I never had the guts to go in there. I've heard of people going and facing their doctors who didn't listen to them. I have not mentally had the capacity to do that, but basically I went on a whole different route. I had a family friend who was connected to the Dignity Health Cancer Center in Phoenix, Arizona, downtown Phoenix, and I went to a doctor there. Straight out of that, all my information went over to him, and that team took over. They're the ones who got me my genetic testing to tell me I had Lynch Syndrome. Made sense why my family, all the women in my family were genetically dying off, very young, of cancer. It's answered a question that, we knew was there, but we didn't have a name for it. So, it's helpful. It's great knowledge to have, and now I can be screened appropriately for the other cancers that I'm at risk at getting because of Lynch syndrome.
So was that your original diagnosis right after the colonoscopy was Lynch syndrome?
They said Lynch
Or
syndrome.
was it?
Well, they did. They said I had a tumor, and it didn't. The doctor basically said he couldn't stage. They can't stage you there, but he said,
Right.
I know without a doubt it's going in for a biopsy. He said, but I know without a doubt it's cancer.
Okay.
And he said, I don't know how advanced it is, but it's not new. That was the words that they used, where it's not new. And I thought, how old could it be? I just had this baby, 18 months ago, and I had, ultrasounds and stuff during my pregnancy. But then during my staging, I got genetic testing to tell me I had Lynch syndrome, and then staging came back that I had stage 3B colorectal cancer. Mine was located very low, like in the rectal area. So basically, for me, reconstruction was just not. With the Lynch syndrome and where my tumor was, they told me pretty early on in my treatment that I would have my ostomy and stuff. So that it changed how my treatment went a little bit because I had Lynch syndrome. They do a different set of treatment versus if you're a sporadic cancer and you have no genetic marker.
So can you explain that more?
Wait, I want two questions though.
Sure.
I want you. I know both of us are so
I know,
interested.
I love it.
Yeah, I want you to explain an ostomy for people that don't know. I
For
know what
sure.
it is,
Yeah,
but
sorry, I threw it out there like it's no big deal.
Yeah, because cancer lingo, we all think everyone knows it. Like we talk about things and we think.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, there you
I'll
go.
be honest.
Perfect.
That's why I asked.
Got it.
And the other thing I want to ask you is, how long did you have the symptoms? Because, okay, so you had your baby, so Delilah, you said, was 17, 18 months
She was
old?
like 18 months when I finally got diagnosed. I had probably like the most, I always say I came off the best time in my life and I went into one of the worst times in my life because I had Delilah and she was very healthy. My second baby. I did work for a while and then I took some time off and did all the mom things with her as a young baby, and it was a really beautiful time. I just started to feel off when she was probably just shy of a year, so about a year before my diagnosis. But my acute symptoms, they were like within 6 months of my diagnosis. Bleeding within like
That's
3
still
months.
a long time to go through what you were going through and not be diagnosed.
And I was seeking answers, and I mean, I don't want to throw a negative look on the medical world, because I feel like they were trying to find out what was wrong with me, but it was just, to them, it was so obviously not cancer, even though I was saying kind of always this runs in my family. Could this be this? Could this be this? And I think a change in our mindset is coming, because by the numbers it has to. There are too many of us, and it's gonna catch up. It is catching up. You see more and more famous people, more and more notable people who are coming out. Young cancer. So we have to shift what we're doing. So on the onset of these not definable symptoms, at what point do we start having some kind of CT scan as a baseline? These kinds of things where we're being preventative. That's why I love genetic testing, because had I known back, when my mom passed away of her cancer, that I had Lynch syndrome, I could have been getting a colonoscopy every year. And then when they found my cancer, it would be like a little polyp that they clear out versus a stage 3 cancer diagnosis, and the mental toll of saying, oh, and now you have a genetic condition that you're going to live with you have been living with, but now you know about it, that you're going to live with an altered, screening life, an altered risk for cancer, at least, different than the average adult, but definitely needing to have a different kind of focus in your life on what you have to do each year. The average woman who's my age, I'm 39 now, isn't doing all of the things I'm doing. They will be eventually.
Yeah, I had my first colonoscopy when I was, I'll be honest, I was 53.
I mean, that's amazing though
Yeah.
that you did it that early, because so many people just, for a lot of reasons. It sounds scary, it's taboo, it's
I
body.
mean, I had mine when I was like 19.
Well, that's true, but that's different. You had cancer
Yeah,
and
I
all
mean,
these things.
yeah, but it also does speak to like you going through it and knowing you were okay. I don't know who got whose first. It sounds like you got yours first, Michael.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I had a lot of,
So
I had a lot
then
of GI
you
issues
showed
at one
mom,
point.
I got this, and
Yeah. Well, mine was just, yeah, I decided I need to go back to the doctor.
yeah,
just
no,
because caregivers do.
yeah.
And they were like, might as well just do a colonoscopy. You're 53, you're healthy, but just do it. And it was good. And I'm glad I did it.
To do another. They're pretty. I would love to do another one. I've been missing
Because
one.
of the anesthesia. Because you wake up, but
Well,
it wears off pretty fast, though.
I think it's like the greatest nap you ever get. So
Right. It's
I'm
short,
all for a
though.
colonoscopy.
A good colonoscopy. But the night before, like what you have to
Maybe I am a mom, you guys, like such a mom that I want a colonoscopy for a break. That's pretty.
Just so I can take a nap.
It's pretty sad.
No, but we're gonna go back. We're not gonna forget about everything, about being an ostomy and all of that.
Yeah.
But also, I think it is so true what you said, because of being in the AYA community and because you're very active in the AYA community and because so are we have met a lot of people that have been told by their doctor,
Yeah.
on this podcast, we've interviewed a bunch of people that have been told, you're not sick, you don't have cancer.
There's no
and it
way.
gets pushed off. And sometimes I think, the doctors, I kind of feel bad for them because they're doing what they can and they're going on averages.
Absolutely.
But,
the averages
for most people, and for most people, it's okay. But for those of you that it's not okay, it's not okay. And it's so good that you said that. I love that you're like, call security or give me the colonoscopy.
The guy was like,
God, we are
this
soulmates.
lady's problem. Like, who is she? And I was just like, you don't understand, dude. I need this now, today.
You were
and then I still had to
body.
wait because they weren't I'm sure there are a list of people who were like literally, really struggling, who went ahead of me, obviously. So yeah, advocating for your screening, and even if you're not part of this community, even if you don't have a family history, if you're having symptoms that are not like yourself, your body best, speak on it so you can get help.
Listening to your body is so important. It's so important. All right, now, I'm sorry.
Yeah, explain it to us and to the people.
Because you're a barefoot ostomate.
I am.
Of course, your Instagram handle.
I am, and I am one forever, so I will have my ostomy forever. And my ostomy is called an ileostomy, and so my ostomy attaches to my small, excuse me, my ostomy attaches, my stoma bag attaches to my stoma, which is my small intestine. It comes straight out of my abdomen. So they create this little like hole in your abdomen, basically, where they pull your intestine out. So you have like a little teeny bit of your intestine coming out. Bag attaches with a medical adhesive, and that's where all my waste goes through. I still go number 1 like normal. That's for number 2, and it's on my body for the rest of my life. Some people have a colostomy that attaches. Mine's on my right side, colostomy's on left side, and that attaches to your colon, your large intestine. Where my tumor was, they had to remove my entire colon. Part of my Lynch Syndrome diagnosis is the fact that cancer can come back in the colon, very high rate of recurrent cancer in the colon, so they just take all of that out. So ostomy, in the simplest terms, is just a bag somebody wears to collect waste from either their small intestine, large intestine. There's also a urostomy, which is connected to a lot of times bladder cancer. Sometimes colon cancer can result in a urostomy as well. Just depends on what your tumor is, what they're removing.
Yeah, so there's a lot there.
So is this this is considered like a chronic condition? So I'm
kind of life.
Like, so did you do did you do chemo? Like I'm not sure how the treatment works for you. Like what was that like?
Because we know JJ is on chemo for life.
So it's
so my treatment was for stage 3 cancer. So I did initial chemo and radiation, I did 6 weeks of radiation, which was every day, Monday through Friday. For about 10 minutes, you lay on a table. They run a big machine around you, and I did targeted pelvic radiation, which is, it's tough stuff. And when I talk about radiation, I liken it to like a sunburn that's inside of your body and outside of your body, because it's truly burning. It's breaking down the tumor. I had, the first 3 weeks of radiation is a big mental game, and then like the last 3 weeks of my radiation was very physically demanding, and it was painful. So by the time I went into surgery after that, I had a little break after that. Then I went into surgery. I had a 9.5-hour surgery where they removed my colon, my rectum, my appendix, a little bit of my tailbone, basically all the tissue that was a couple of lymph nodes, all of the tissue that was potentially connected to the cancer. And then they placed the ileostomy at the same time. So I was just cut all open. And then I went into recovery, into the ICU. And during this time, it's like a really weird time. It's hard sometimes for people to remember, but during March of 2020, everything was closing down. And so the night before I went into the hospital, unfortunately, I found out I would go alone. I would be alone. I was go in, do it, wake up in the ICU, and I did. And I do feel like a lot of what, why I'm so active in the communities that I am, was born from that time that I spent in the hospital. You get a big dose of reality when you, a healthy person who has never been one who needed help or was sick, needs help and is sick, and there's a lot of isolation in the hospital and private time, and even more so when you don't have visitors. So I feel like my passion for all of this and talking about all of this just so vulnerably and openly came from that really quiet time.
Did you go on social media?
I did. So at that time, I didn't share with the world that believe it or not, I was quiet about my diagnosis in the very beginning. I did not share until right before surgery. I knew surgery for me was going to be kind of a line in the sand, because receiving an ostomy changes a lot about how you feel, how you're up to doing things, especially in the very early days of it. Now I live really normally, and I talk to a lot of ostomates who are right in the thick of it right now, and I tell them, like, the other side is bright, you'll be okay, but those early days are really challenging. And so I started sharing my story right before that online, and I slowly made a few friends, but I was still very guarded. I also, when I was sharing my story, I would share very positive outlook, because I felt that I was a burden. I didn't want to tell anyone the ugly things that were actually happening kind of behind the scenes. But after surgery and I went into cleanup chemo after I healed from surgery. I did 6 months of IV chemo. During that time, I got a little more gritty, a little bit more real with what I was sharing. And that's when I really started to make my more true blue friends that I've made in this community. When I started to say, hey, yes, I think positively every day, but while I'm thinking positively, I'm dealing with this, and this, and I just wish somebody knew. Will somebody just be witness to it? Will somebody just know it? Like, that's all. And I started with like 10 people who followed me, and now we have a lot of great friends who get it. Some of the people watch me, and then they'll send me a message here and there and say, thanks for just showing up and showing your normal life, because I was laying in a hospital bed and I saw you doing it. And the reason I did that was I was laying in that hospital bed. I went on social media and I said, okay. I mean, I did it before I went to surgery, but I would do it after surgery too while I was laying there. I would look at other young women young guys too who had ostomy, just like
Yeah.
people my age, people who look like me and were living lives that I wanted to see myself doing on the other side. I watched them. And then, when I was well enough, I wanted to be one of them so that I could show other people too, hey, and not that my life's fixed and perfect and I still have a lot of challenges, but that I'm still here every day, and I'm doing it. I'm showing up, braving it out, and even owning it to the degree where I'll share it with people at large.
You are owning it, and you're like sexy, and
I love it.
that is part of you too, because I'm sure before you were this hot, sexy, beautiful woman, married, and you still are. Even with everything you've been through, you are still this beautiful, gorgeous, sexy woman, and I love that about you.
Well,
Right?
I feel like
No, and it is good to. I love
It
the videos you
is.
do on Instagram. You'll do like dancing videos. You'll show everything, and I think it's so great to show that. Like I love showing like
Yes.
my scars, and I love you love showing your scars as well. I think it's just it's amazing to show people that you shouldn't be afraid of posting, and you should be proud of your body because it's still
absolutely.
here. I love that.
I think if I can be totally honest with you guys, Ashley, I love that you say that I was that before. I think before I went through what I went through, I was all those things, but in my head, I was so mean to myself, so hard on myself, never allowed myself a moment of kind of peace in here, and a lot of degrading a very well and healthy body, and I regret that now. And not that I'm like, oh, I live with all these regrets and woes. I think we all wish we handled certain things differently.
Of course.
I think a big part of my platform is for women and men, all people. But I do know there's a special connection with your body as a woman when you go through something like this, to just need to say, I'm still a woman. And so I do work and talk to a lot of girls with ostomies. But gender aside, we still have to feel like human beings, and our sexuality and our how we feel about ourselves, our confidence and our willingness to put ourselves out there, that doesn't go away because we're sick. It's even more, we need to be get in tune with it. So I hope that, like you said, it's showing that you can still love your body, even if it isn't the body you imagined yourself living in. Because I got bad news for a lot of people who have that kind of healthy person privilege. There will come a day where no matter what your body is, it is going to change. If you're lucky enough, you're going to get old, and that's the best case scenario, and your body is going to change then too. Better to be kind to yourself now, be more accepting of your body now, wherever you're at. If you've got scars like we do, where it's noticeable by others, or if your scars are less noticeable by others.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was beautiful, and it is so true. And I think that everyone needs to hear that. No matter what, our bodies are going to change. And it is true, and not to be gender specific, but it is true. I think we tend to be really hard on ourselves, and on social media. And that's, I think, I love that, people criticize social media so much, but there's so many beautiful sides to it. It's and true. I see what Michael does with it. Mm-hmm. I do it on a smaller scale. You and Michael, though, you do on this big, beautiful scale. And I think it's very empowering for people to see that side. And social media has been amazing for us. I don't know, the cancer community on social media is freaking amazing. I'm sorry.
I do think we have a really elite kind of group of people that it seems like it's just a lot of support. I have been blown away by it time and time again. I will say it was so vital for me, and I'm sure, Michael, you can relate to this, is when you walk in to get treatment somewhere, you're the youngest by at times I did get sad to see a few younger people as I went on, but it would be I was the only one who wasn't in my 60s or 70s. Right. And that's really tough on your psyche. it's really hard on you feeling isolated. And so social media for me, again, during that time, especially COVID, it wasn't even like I could go to a support group made for AYAs during that time. They weren't having them. And so I met a lot of people here. And that's, what got me through. And now I've been lucky. I've kind of reverse engineered my advocacy life. I started in social media, and now I've been going to my first in-person things in Austin. I got to go to CancerCon. I've gotten to go to Cologuard. I'm hopeful to go to Call on Congress this year. So I now feel like I'm part of the people impacting some actual change. It is small scale, but it is important because people do go looking for us.
Right, small scale.
It's so important.
What? Well, not you guys.
It's huge. You're huge. You are huge scale.
You know what? They're searching for us.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's small scale or huge, because as long
so
as
important.
You're impacting some people that have been through what you've been through, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I do want to ask you a question though.
Sure.
So what are the limitations that you have, like because I forget the name, but what do you call it again?
Ileostomy with my ostomy. So for me, I would say at this point where I'm at, very few, if none. I pretty much live my life like anybody else does, and the only time something is truly different going on is when I go to the bathroom. Right. Aside from my scans that I get because I have Lynch syndrome and we're just always preventatively watching to make sure there's no spots, that part of my life is a pretty, I would say, a large mental toll. But my ostomy now, after I'm going on 5 years of having it, it's just such a part of me that it really doesn't limit me. I do a thing on my page where I say, will it ostomy? I've been on cruises. I've been on airplanes. I've been on commercial flights and a little Cessna. I've been on, I go out on sunset sails on boats. I go to the bathroom on those boats. Like I travel all over with my ostomy, and I just live pretty much a normal life. I do have to do some preparation to make sure that I'm not leaving my house without supplies, because I do sometimes have to change my bag on the fly if I have something going on. But in general, I just change my bag every 3 days and then live my life pretty much like as normal as I can claim to be.
So is it waterproof?
I was gonna say, what about okay?
So you could go surfing.
Completely waterproof.
You could go surfing.
Yes, I can, and I can challenge you to boogie boarding. I've seen you out surfing. I love it. We talked about this at CancerCon.
Yes.
But I'm not a good surfer, but I can boogie board like the best of them.
I used to boogie board after my knee surgery before I could surf.
Yeah, as we were talking about, because it's so low impact, it's easy on you.
It's really fun too.
It is.
It's very fun.
We're going to have to hook up and make that happen.
I feel like when I was a kid, I would get thrown off, and then I'd tumble in the sand, and then I'd come out, and the beach seashells would all be in my hair. I grew up going down the shore in New Jersey, so always loved being on the beach. But you can go surfing, you can go in the ocean, you can go in a hot tub, you can go sauna, you can take a shower with it, you can take a bagless shower if you want, where you take it off. There's times where you don't have output if you kind of time things out right so that you don't have to have it on. But you can pretty much live. I'm still working on a lot of firsts, but nothing so far has been out of my range. And I know there's
doubt that.
There was somebody who
I don't doubt that.
I used to scuba dive before I had kids. I used to go scuba diving. And so I did look up, there was a gentleman who scuba dives with his ostomy, and I thought that might be the only thing that I was limited not to do. And apparently you can still do it. So I would never say that I'm like limited. I do consider an ostomy a disability that I live with now as a result of my cancer. Some people don't like that word and don't want to use disability if they're uncomfortable with it. No big deal to me. I just think of it as truly the definition of I have a different way of going to the bathroom. It's just not like the common person. So if in a situation I might need to use like a disabled bathroom, then I would. But otherwise, I don't look at myself as living in some resounding lack because I have an ostomy. I live a very full life with my ostomy.
It seems that way. All right, how old, we know, but how old are your daughters now?
My daughters are 12 and 7, and
good ages.
6th grade and 2nd grade. And, you know, my 6th grader these 12-year-olds now, they're grown. So she's getting grown up, and I'm enjoying watching her become her own whole person. She's at science camp right now. And then my youngest is in 2nd grade, and she just got a pair of roller skates and some butt pads. So she's out roller skating every night on the front patio.
My friend does that with his girlfriend.
I love it.
Yeah,
okay. Can I ask a genetic question? So
yeah, of course.
I don't know what age it would happen, but do you think about your daughters and when you would have them tested genetically? I mean, I'm sure that's in your head.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a tough thing when you have kids before you know you could potentially be passing on something like this. Obviously never would want to go back and not have my children, but it does feel heavy when you hear something like this, and they were the first thought I had. Both when I got diagnosed with cancer and when I had my genetic test results come in. Right now, there's a lot of different ideas about what age is right. Right now, they suggest doing it at 18 because at that point, then they are an adult. And before, you know, they might be getting tested for that and getting some kind of potential diagnosis, that we would get them all of the tools they need for life to be set up ahead of time. But like we were talking about before with screening and how the mindset is changing around screening, and the same way we've changed around like pre-existing conditions for, you know, health insurance, these things are going to have to shift in how we're treating people, because more and more kids out there are going to be children of somebody who has been diagnosed with something. I do want them genetic tested, and then even if they don't have Lynch syndrome, because I was diagnosed at 34, they would start having their annual colonoscopies at 24. So either way, we're just a colonoscopy kind of family, and lock in, you know, you're going to have to do it. My approach with that, and how I've talked to my kids about all of this, is we go to the doctor to get I go to the doctor to get these kinds of scans the same way that you're going to the dentist to get your teeth looked at. We are not waiting until, you know, our teeth are falling out of our head to go to the dentist. We do it every, 6 months. We go every year for a deep cleaning. We do these things so that we're healthy. And that's kind of the mindset I have around how I talk to them about scans and stuff, because they know that I have a condition, and they know that I had cancer, but we're still adjusting to the idea of what's the right path for us on exactly what age to test them.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
I think about that as a mom,
and I read a lot about it, and I mean, we are kind of loudmouths in doctors' offices. Like I said, that chair situation. So I'm well known for being an advocate. So I do listen to my kids about their health concerns, especially like upset stomachs, probably a little bit more,
of course,
with more, like I need answers for this than the average parent, but I always am communicating to them too, why, everything I went through. So hopefully in the future, right now, I will say good news, Lynch syndrome, vaccines are in trials, so human trials now. So we are very close to some of these things being not an issue, and hopefully that's the case for the next generation of kids, and knowing when you're supposed to be getting screened during that time, and the medical world and insurance not getting in your way of that. We hope for less of this.
That's an issue, and that is kind of sad, but I know that is an issue with a lot of the genetic testing and the screenings is insurance, because we have faced that. Yeah.
So, and I think it's like at this point now they even have grants for if somebody can't afford the out-of-pocket, and I think it's down to like $250 if I'm not mistaken. There's grants for the $250 to have that covered. So if you're listening and you just want to have that testing done, or even your great-great-grandpa had something or your great-grandpa had something. It just never hurts to know.
I wanted to ask you, so now you don't have active treatment?
Nope. I have been
NED. Scans though.
Yeah. So I had my last scan in April and I was officially NED for 4 years then. So that's really good news. March, when I had my surgery in March of 2020, they said at that time there was nothing came back on the biopsy, all NED, nothing showed up. And since then I've had clear scans. So knock on wood, I cross the fingers, I go in right on time, I listen to my body, I do everything I can. But as far as right now, I'm enjoying the other challenge of a cancer diagnosis. And that is, how do you live with that, with the knowledge that you gained during it. So that's a whole nother hurdle I'm still working on, but no treatment right now. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, how do you live with the knowledge you've gained from it? And I mean this not from like the trauma aspect, but like how has it like changed you, made you live differently?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about my body and just how I try to be a little bit more accepting of myself, because there's so many things that I didn't choose. I didn't choose this path for myself. Accepting of how I had to handle it in the moment, or things that I wish I handled differently. And I have to just say that was, chaos, and you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive other people. And I think you get up every day and you just try. You put one foot in front of the other. I think when I was going through my treatment, I remember feeling so overwhelmed at a few points, and I had to break down everything I was doing into one step to the next. I mean, to the point where I was like, walk to the bathroom and brush your teeth, because I was so sick, or I was so emotionally depleted from everything, or I'd been crying for 4 days straight because I just got this diagnosis. And so I broke it down into that. And then, so to answer your question in earnest, is those times got bigger and bigger. So instead of just walk into the bathroom and brush your teeth, it was more like, okay, get up and do your morning routine. And then I could get all the way through that. And then it was get up and do this. And, I took some time after I was done with treatment to try to like heal. And then I went back to work and said, I want to try to be in the world at large again and have a job. And now I just get up and go to work, and again, one foot in front of the other. And usually I'm between play date to play date to play date to play date right now with my daughter's social schedule. But like, I just keep doing each thing, and then somehow that day is done, and then it's the next day. I rely on people who understand. I share my journey online, so I feel like it's not weighing me down, like an anvil on my shoulder. And I feel good about the reception of it from people who say, hey, seeing you helps me live. And I think that's how I live every day.
I think going through it and having meaning, it helps you. Okay, I went through this, but I can help someone else. It gives you meaning, and it's like worth it that you had to go through the suffering. It makes it so much more worth it when you can help someone. So it's not for nothing.
And it's not for nothing. And I think that's a universal thing. I've talked to a lot of people who didn't have a cancer diagnosis. They had some other crazy medical experience, and we'll talk about it. And one of the universal things I think all of us, even if we're not vocal and sharing our story out loud, quietly, and within our communities, every one of us just wants to help others not feel as alone or scared or unsure or whatever the feeling is, without saying, hey, it's not just you. It's not because you're weird and you're not handling a cancer diagnosis correctly. Everyone struggles with this. Everyone, anyone's world would come to a screeching halt. And then only the people who have truly lived that. When they look you in the eyes and say that, that's like, it is truly healing, because you know that they've lived what other people can't understand.
Yeah. And but it also is what you said, is that it's not just that you've come to a screeching halt. It comes to a screeching halt, and then, as you were saying, you are continuing forward, getting up and brushing your teeth and getting up and getting through your day. And with the knowledge of everything you've been through, and you said, even now you're living with it, we see that in so many survivors. That's why CancerCon there's people there that were diagnosed 10, 15 years ago, but they're still...
You tend to not lose that perspective. It's kind of something that sticks with you.
I agree. I think that was something that touched me when I was at CancerCon, because sometimes I wonder if, lingering in a world that, like, is it selfish of me to linger in a world where I shouldn't need this support? But bar none, all of us, no matter if you're a year out of your diagnosis, or, I've met people who, thankfully, I've met people who've lived 20 years from their diagnosis. So, and that's amazing to meet those people too. But we all need support, varying degrees, obviously, and different kinds of support. But it's not over when it's over at all.
No, it's
never over.
It's never over. That's such a great, it's never over.
It's never over. It's just like, you live with it. Life after cancer is like, it's not like, life after cancer isn't like life, it's life after cancer, because it feels different. Like, even if you go back to completely normal, you're still gonna have that. It's still just life after cancer. It's just so different, such a different perspective that you gain, like that. And also, I think the trauma and the gratitude that you deal with. And it's like, I was talking to my therapist today, and it's like, there are, like, I always talk about it with mom as well. It's like, there's two things. Like, you hold the gratitude for surviving and what you've been through, and you're grateful that you're alive. But at the same time, you're also holding this trauma, and they're both there. You're like, okay, I'm very grateful I'm alive, but it's still not perfect. Sometimes you think you survived cancer, and you're so happy because, I survived cancer. I'm done with the treatment, but you still live with that trauma, and it never changes.
It's a lot like grief, and I know you guys are no strangers to grief. And losing my mom was kind of I lost grandparents before I lost my mom, and that was hard too. But losing my mom, I was 24 when she passed. 26 when she passed. It was so profound, and living with grief has always been there since then. And then this was like a different kind of grief, but it's very reminiscent of how it feels when you lose someone. There's trauma, there's gratitude, there's trying to balance those feelings, there's guilt, there's, wonder why me's and what ifs and how come my family, and these things. I think those transcend a lot of different situations where you just experience profound grief, and it's incredibly difficult to live through, and to, rise above. So kudos to you guys for doing such great things with your platform. And just, I always recognize other people who use their greatest challenges to become like the greatest asset they can be to their community. So you guys are awesome.
So you are awesome. But I love that, what you said about you can have trauma and gratitude, and I think it's a similar thing. You can have grief and you can still continue and have joy in your life. And you can have both. Like, I think sometimes people think, if I'm grieving, I can't have joy, or if I'm joyful, that means I'm not grieving. The grief is always, I think it's always going to be there.
Yeah,
I think you're always going to have grief for your mom. I'm always going to have grief for my husband. And for the life that I feel like Michael didn't get, but then he got a whole different life. And I'm so grateful for that life. But
I know, it's so complex, and it's so complex. It's layered and layered and layered and layered, and to try to I used to try to like tell myself I won't have, like, especially right after diagnosis, I won't have any fun. I'll just go sit in my like my cave and take my penance of life or whatever this is. And I realized through a lot of this, and you touched on it when you said you got to keep going and living. You should still go and have fun. If that was one thing, I would go back and shake my own shoulders and say, you should still go. And, you know, maybe you have to leave early because you're tired, but you got to go and do the things. Go surfing, you got to go, you know, go roller skating. I grew up roller skating. I was just talking about it today. I'm like, I love reconnecting with those things that make you feel like you and having fun, because there's no award for saddest cancer patient who like eliminates all the joy from their life, you know, on their own accord. Allow yourself these moments of joy. If you can escape into something and forget any of it for a little bit, that's fantastic.
Dancing.
Don't leave yourself out of it. Yeah.
That was,
Exactly.
you know, when we met. I mean, yeah, dancing was it, and that was us in the hospital too. We would have music and like dance down the halls, and I was like, okay, this sucks. Like we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but like we could still have our moments of dancing and that's pure joy.
You guys are such a good example of family just taking care of each other too. You're such a great caregiver, Ashley, and I really appreciate you guys sharing both of your stories, because it's, you know, it's not always the case that both sides are comfortable enough to be open with that, and it's really important, especially for a mom and a son relationship like that, to have other people can look to you guys.
Well, thank you. And can I ask a hard question then?
Yeah,
how has it been with your husband?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard, especially during 2020, because we couldn't even have like a babysitter come in our house. So, but he's held it down. I mean, he's an amazing dad. He is one of the most involved dads. He, you know, helps the girls. And when I was down and out, he was taking them to pretty much everything that was going on, up until COVID shut everything down. And then it was basically everything was his responsibility at home. So very challenging. But he's an awesome guy, and he's been there and helped my girls get through times when I literally all I could do was just sit up and read a book to them in bed, and that was the extent of what I could do for the day. So, you know, now that I'm more myself, I know that it helps all of them, because I'm up and being myself and everything, but they know and they support that I have this other part of my life where, you know, I've gotten support from a community that can completely understand what I'm going through. I have passion for the advocacy that I do, and pretty much that I'm a loudmouth. They've always known it, especially Todd, and he knows I'm going to be out there trying to advocate for changes, in hopes for my kids, but other people's kids too. But yes, obviously, my little unit at home, they're the ones that are on my mind, and kind of why I think it's important to keep doing it. So they've been great, you know, but
he sounds amazing. You talked about it when we met.
They're sweeties. They sometimes are like, wait, what are you taking a picture of again, Mom? Because my daughter though, my oldest, she's seen my Instagram, and she's a big cheerleader for me, and she always approves like my outfits, and she gives me kudos, and she'll tell me, Mom, I like your hair. So she knows I'm out here advocating and showing them, and obviously I just want them to see that, you know, hopefully they never live with an ostomy. I don't think they'll ever have to do that, hopefully, but that no matter what comes in life, they're gonna own it, because that's what Mom did. They can do it, they can get through it, and also that they are not afraid of the medical world, that they are willing to get their scans and listen to their bodies and all of that. Yeah, I have a great little family.
You're a great mama, and your husband sounds like a wonderful father.
Yeah, they're great. He's a great dad, great kids. I'm really lucky. I'm lucky to still be here, navigating the bickering between those two ages, but
I can imagine 7 and 12. Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a little
It's
bit of
fun.
bickering, but it's all
It's fun. No,
normal.
they're good kids. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
fine. Should we ask fun questions?
Yeah, that's some fun
We
questions.
just have a few like personal fun
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite movies, but I probably say top of the list if I had to pick one, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I love that movie. That's such a fun movie.
My favorite movie.
That's a great movie.
I'll watch it a million times over, but I do have a long list of favorite movies that right now my head is screaming. I can't believe you just picked one. So
I know. And that was pretty quick too, because it would take me a long
No, it's
time.
usually my top. It's either that or maybe Goonies. Goonies is up there, but Goonies might have been my favorite when I was like 12. And now
Yeah, but it's a good one. All right. What about if you had a superpower? What would it be? It could be anything. A superpower.
I'd fly. Let's fly. That'd
Okay.
be so fun.
Flying is
That's pretty
good.
Yeah, I think I'd be a bird. Fly
I love
all
that.
around.
I always say I want to
Honestly, I think
teleport.
is that like it's like a city girl thing because I spent so much time in traffic over the course of my life because I live in Phoenix. But it's like I just want to fly above it all. That would be nice.
That sounds cool. I like that idea. Flying is good.
Should we ask the...
Magic wand?
Okay, so if you had a magic wand and you could change anything in healthcare, what would it be?
That's a more serious, not as fun, but it could be fun.
No, I love that. Everyone gets an annual CT scan.
Okay, that's a great response.
That is, no
Everyone.
one said that, and I like that one.
Even if you don't want to get genetic testing, fine. You don't want to know that, then everyone has to get an annual CT scan.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd be everyone gets genetic testing and then gets the CT scans based on that if they need them. Because I know there's other concerns when you're getting a CT scan every year. But I digress.
All right. So we do have one question. This is always like our last question.
Okay.
Always. It's our signature. So
Love it.
if you knew tomorrow were your last day, what would you do today?
I'd spend time with my girls. I'd be with my girls. I'd try, if I could have every person that I cared about all in one room, I'd do that. And
You
I'd make
could.
them all
You can
hug
do it.
really tight. Okay, then I'd have everybody I know just come and be around me, and then my girls would be like right here. So my babies, be with my babies.
I love it. That's a beautiful, beautiful answer.
And it could it be on the
hug.
beach too? Because I
Yeah,
love.
it could, girl.
It could
this
be
is-
anywhere. It could be on Mars.
This could be on the beach.
On the
I
beach.
love that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's beautiful.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
This is an official goodbye from your host, Michael Kramer.
And the other host, Ashley Kramer, and our beautiful guest, Amy Hart. And Amy, I'm going to put your Instagram
Oh, perfect.
in the show notes. Is there anything else I should put in the show notes? You let me know, but I will definitely put that so people can reach out to you, DM, whatever it is. And you are just beautiful.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you, Michael. You guys make this easy peasy. I really appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on my soapbox about my important stuff and for uplifting me. It's been so great knowing you, and I hope I get to see you next year at CancerCon.
Hopefully before then, but definitely next year at CancerCon.
You will see us.
You will see us.
Yes.
And thank you everyone for listening. We love you. Mwah.